How many urns can be buried in a plot? As the cycle of life and death continues, we all know someone who eventually leaves the realm of the living. You will then have to manage the funeral and process your grief at the same time. It might be rough if it is the first time, but you must be strong for your loved one's family. In this blog, we will answer the questions of how many urns can be buried in one plot. Why cremation? Cremation is chosen by many families and loved ones due to being a much more convenient option. You can bury more than one urn in a plot. If you do not intend to do so, some people place urns containing the ashes of the deceased in memorials called columbarium. The number can vary. When choosing a location to lay cremated remains to rest, there are a few options: cemetery plots, urn gardens, and other uncommon options. We will focus on cemetery plots as they are the most common option. The short answer is that the number of urns may vary. No matter the type of cemetery plot, single or family, the majority of burial plots allow for at least two. This is because while most burial plots are made to hold caskets, most cemeteries are not against having two urns in one plot. The names simply have to be able to fit a gravestone first as a courtesy, and allowing loved ones to commemorate the deceased. Ultimately, you should ask the cemetery first as to how many urns can fit in a plot. Examples. Some cemeteries, like Gethsemane Cemetery in Happy Valley, usually bury a person in a casket for each plot, though they also have space for urns containing cremated remains. The cemetery allows for up to 4 urns in one plot. This is to allow for enough room on the gravestone to list all names and dates. It is also possible to bury 3 urns in a plot along with a casket in Gethsemane. As urns are not very large and do not take up space, this also entails having one casket and 1 or 2 urns in a burial plot as well. As long as it is within the cemetery and state limits, it will not be a problem. Other states and cemeteries even allow for up to 6 individuals to be cremated and their urns to be buried in one plot. Some cemeteries only allow for a veteran and his or her spouse to be cremated in one plot. Interment. Before interring the urn in a grave that already contains remains, it is mandatory to apply for permission to inter the additional urn or urns. As long as you and any other loved ones authorize the interment, the urn can be buried within the local regulations and limits. Conclusion. It depends on the location and cemetery as to how many urns can be buried in a plot. Should you be considering this, you can take a look at some different urns, such as patriotic urns, traditional urns, biodegradable urns, wooden urns, and more. As long as everything complies with regulations, you should be fine.